So let's talk about profit margins for retail chains. So a lot of times people always ask me, what are the typical profit margins when selling a retail chains? It happens probably in every workshop I've ever taught. And so I want to explain it on a general level. When you're selling to retailers, they want to make a certain amount of money, and so do you, right? And when you're creating your product, you need enough wiggle room so that you can make some money. And then you also need to make sure that the buyer's happy. It's a complicated thing, especially when you're starting out and you have unique products, or maybe don't have a unique product, but you are used to selling your product at a certain price. You guys are all over the place in regards to where you are in the business. So it's hard for me to explain this based on a general collective whole, but I will give it my best shot here. The answer is you need to first figure out what the market will bear in terms of your pricing. So more than anything, you can't go to the buyer with a product with the pricing way off. And the only way to know that is to do your market research, right? So if everyone in your category, in your product similarities, are selling the product for $19.97, then you're going to have to figure out how you work backwards from that. And then you got to figure out what is tasty for the buyer, right? So step one is to figure out the appropriate pricing. I've created other videos in regards to pricing, so please take a look at those. But the answer is, first, make sure that your pricing is not completely outlandish, right? You guys get that? The second thing is that each product category is unique. So what do I mean by a product category? Someone who's selling a consumer electronics product is dealing with things that are very different than someone who's selling clothing, is very different than someone who's selling anything else, right? Every product category is unique. I use this example a lot. Jewelry, fashion jewelry, the cheap stuff at Forever 21 or wherever, those types of retailers. They cost pennies on the dollars to make those products. And it's really light and you can ship them really nicely, right? Really cheaply. That is a very different experience than somebody who's selling a washing machine where there's very little wiggle room. You understand? So how do you figure out your profit margins? You need to go and explore pricing for your product based on your category, and then also be somewhat reasonable in regards to if your product costs $5 to make, and then you know that the market's going to bear $25, you need to be able to incorporate shipping and all sorts of little things that you got to create of your product. And then you just generally try to be reasonable with the buyer, give yourself some extra room. You can do it that way.